listeners. This is Bless Radio. It's 6 p.m. UK time, and this is the Spiritual Discussion Program. I am Saad in Southeast London, and very soon I'll have my colleague Gregory joining us. This is, as I say, the Spiritual Discussion Program. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Uprushin. My colleague Gregory has just joined us, so I'll ask him, how are you, Gregory, and how is the weather where you are?
One is fine, the weather is getting warm and bright.
Yes, same here in London, Southeast London. It is here bright and getting warmer, although I must say it has been chilly. Although the sun has been out the last few days, it has been chilly and a little windy as well. But today it somehow became warmer, and that changed the sensation. So, as I was saying, listeners, this is the Spiritual Discussion Program, and we are here to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Uprushin. And every week we have a new topic for discussion. The topic tonight is no gain without pain. No gain without pain. That's a famous saying, and we're going to explore that in our show today. If you have any questions or comments, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1.com. If you scroll down on the home page, you'll see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. I'm going to begin with, what is the Grail Message? The Grail Message in the Light of Truth by Uprushin is a spiritual knowledge of life. It offers an explanation of the world, a picture of creation on the basis of natural laws. Its lectures contain valuable basic elements as a help in life, for through the knowledge mediated, the reader is again brought closer to life and led back to God. The Grail Message deals with important fundamental questions of life by explaining in a clear and logical way the automatic working of the laws of nature, the whole weaving of creation, allowing every process to be recognized and thereby the purpose of our whole life. It is directed at the individual and speaks to the innate experiences of the human being, their strengths and weaknesses. Thus, every reader has the opportunity to discover, through the intuitive perception, if what is stated is the truth. Combining with matter-of-fact reasoning, a complete world picture arises, where there is no separation between the visible world and the great world beyond the five senses, nor any separation between scientific and religious striving for knowledge. I'd like to give you a couple of quotes from the author of the Grail Message, Uprushin. The hearer and reader of my lectures should always work within himself, keenly probing and building bridges from one lecture to the other, as well as out into the great and small world happenings. Only then will he be able to understand the Grail message and find that it gradually shapes itself into one complete whole without leaving any gaps. Again and again, in all the happenings, the reader will come back to the basic features. He can explain everything without having to change even one single sentence. The word of the Grail message lives so that it permits only those people who really carry the honest desire in their souls to find abundantly. All else is automatically rejected by it. For the arrogant and those who seek superficially, the message will remain the book with 7 seals. And I'd like to give you one more quote from the author. I wish to fill the gaps which have so far always remained unanswered in the souls of men, and which never leave any serious thinker in peace if he earnestly seeks for the truth. So, dear listeners, just to remind you, the topic that we're discussing tonight is no gain without pain. No gain without pain. You are welcome to join us with any questions or comments by contacting us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 00 44 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way to contact us, which is to go to the website where we are broadcasting. That is blessradio1, that's the number 1.com. If you scroll down on the home page, you'll see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. Gregory, I like to look up the meaning of the words in the topic, just in case people haven't heard that. It is no gain without pain. So I'm not going to look up the word no. I think we know what that is, too simple in a way. So I will go forward with the next one. It says gain. So there I found, for the meaning of the word gain, in the dictionary, 3 meanings. So the first one, it says obtain or secure something wanted or desirable. That's in brackets, actually, something wanted or desirable. So I'll just repeat that. So obtain or secure, in brackets, something wanted or desirable. And they give an example. We gained entry to the car in 5 seconds. They gave actually a number of examples, actually. I'll give you another one. I think that's even a little bit better one. The process has gained the confidence of the industry. So, Gregory, what do you say about this meaning, obtain or secure something wanted or desirable?
Well, these are pointers, but they are not that something is desirable. One wonders, it has not been correlated how it is to gain.
How it is to gain. Okay, right. Well, that's the whole idea of the show. So we can always, this is only the start. So we are supposed to discuss it, and that's how we, let's say, gain from what this is about. So let's continue. So there's a second meaning, they say, in the dictionary for the word gain. It says reach or arrive at, in brackets, a destination. And they give example, we gain the ridge. So reach or arrive at, in brackets, a destination. Does that help at all, Gregory?
Well, some of these things are verbs or adverbs or just qualifying pointers. But
Right.
what we are trying to get here is the real meaning rather than just pointers.
Okay, okay. So it looks like we just have to, again, go into our discussion and explore it there. Right. The third meaning, I'm going to ignore it because it's not really giving us much there. So I will now move on to the next word, without, which is, again, I've got, well, actually, it's one meaning, one word definition there, in the absence of.
I think that's precise enough. Yeah.
Right. Okay, that's good. And then the last word, pain. Here I've got two meanings. The first one, highly unpleasant physical sensation caused by illness or injury. What about this one?
That's a pointer, but it's too narrow when it is directed to injury or illness. There are other areas where there's no injury, there's no illness, and yet one has pain.
Yes, I can think of one like heartache. Heartbreak, which people feel pain from that.
Or disappointments.
Say again, sorry.
Disappointments.
Disappointments, right? You see, so not necessarily these physical pains. So yeah. Okay. Now there's a second meaning I've got for the word pain, which is great care or trouble. And they've given an example for that. She took pains to see that everyone ate well.
Well, that's a qualifier, which is also helpful.
Okay. Now, because this is a phrase, I decided to look up in Google, what it can, and now because we have AI, it's able to sort of connect a few more words, sort of give it a bit more meaningful understanding of these phrases. So no gain without pain. So I looked that up in Google, and they came up with this. The idiom, no gain without pain, or no pain or no gain, means that you must endure hardship or effort to achieve success or improvement. It's a motivational phrase often used to encourage people to push through challenges and discomfort to reach their goals. There's much more. There's a few more words said about it, but I think I'll just repeat this one first. The idiom "no gain without pain" or "no pain, no gain" means that you must endure hardship or effort to achieve success or improvement. It's a motivational phrase often used to encourage people to push through challenges and discomfort to reach their goals. So, Gregory, how can I say, how true is that?
Well, that has to be examined. Whether it's a statement of fact or partial or none at all. And again, it depends on the perspective. It is a perspective which has not been looked into very carefully, because many only look at the outer happenings of events. We're not look at the same time ignoring what has happened in the inner decision before these events came to materialize. So such statements, one has to examine them carefully in the framework of the laws of nature to find out if that is the case.
Thank you for that. So that's really, I'm going to say, open the door now, because you're saying there's an inner, could say, working, and there's an outer working or outer happening, uh, and it can have, and then there's a context uh, we need to look at as well. So these are specific angles we need to examine, as you say, Gregory, to get a real picture of what is no gain without pain. Now, what I'll do here, I'll use what Google gave me was quite a few examples, you can say. Let's see if I must say it looks more of the outer type of examples than the inner working examples, but it's okay. We use what's there, and then we can, look at the inner side, inner aspect as well. So here I found, just to give the background, actually, this phrase, no gain without pain, it originally came from Benjamin Franklin. If I remember, I think he was a president of the USA, but I've actually can't remember right now. Anyway, so he started that phrase. There are no gains. He actually said there are no gains without pains. They didn't say more than that, so I haven't got the full phrase where it came from. And then there was, let's say, another way it was put by this American actress called Jane Fonda in her exercise videos, and she said, no pain, no gain. It's just a shorter version of it, I guess. Anyway, now, so that, Gregory, as you said, this is like, you can see the physical outer example of this is in sports. You can see fitness and sports, where it is used to motivate athletes to push their limits, to endure the training pain for better performance. So that's the physical pain. The athletes are working to overcome that, well, to push through the pain, you can say. I don't know about overcoming the pain, because the pain still remains when they exercise hard, in order to achieve a better performance. So let me go through the other example as well, Gregory. There's one referring to business and career, to encourage individuals to work hard and overcome challenges to achieve success. And in personal development, you say to motivate people to overcome obstacles and achieve personal goals. So, Gregory, what I'm saying here, the phrase is used to motivate people to reach certain goals, which requires physical effort, but they have to push to their limits in order to achieve the better performance, or in order to achieve their goals. So that's where I wanted to ask you, is this really true that you have to achieve your gain, the gain you're looking for, can you do that without pain? The phrase is, no, you have to go through pain to get the gain. So So, Gregory, how can we understand this? Is this really the right way? Let's call it this way.
You had used the word discomfort to describe pain. And discomfort is precise enough. In the first instance, because these things have not been put in the context of the laws of nature. Which laws of nature stipulates that motion is a law in creation, and therefore all activities are subject to this motion. This motion, when you have the scenario where one swings in the direction of the motion, or when one resonates the direction of the motion, one is able to reap benefits. Benefits materially, benefits in thoughts, and benefits in one's intuitions. If, however, one swings against these laws, then that already means the individual must thereafter or therefore exert itself more than necessary to achieve a result which results could have been achievable if that individual had resonated in thoughts with its intuition, in deeds with its intuition. So many who observe the outermost forms and they make these statements is because they themselves did not really grasp what lies behind it, the motive, that motive which is emotion, which determines what therefore happens. Therefore, one would say is partially a fact. One wouldn't even use the word truth. It's partially a fact when it is considered from one point of view from the outside without understanding of the laws of creation. It is the lack of understanding of these laws, all right, and the superficial observation of these activities that made them craft that particular saying, no pain, no gain.
Thanks a lot, Gregory, for this answer and picture you have painted there. You're really showing it's how we can see, you could say, a scenario in a, I was going to use the word biased way or prejudiced way or in a set way that we see a particular situation, you know. So yes, when you put effort in, on the outer level, there's pain. You can use the word pain that you're exerting, and there's a pain coming out of it, but then, and it's the word pain, you think of it as a negative term, as if it's a discomfort, like we said, right? But actually, when you see it in the big picture, that you're going to achieve something, or there's something you're going to do, and in this effort to achieve it, as I said, as you pointed out, on the outer level or partially, you see that there is pain, and then you think of it as a negative thing to go through pain. But it's just like that is how the world exists, you know. As you said, the laws of nature are there. You can't bypass them, you know. That is how the world works, through nature. And you know, let's say if you hit your head against a wall, or you punch your hand into a wall, you will feel pain, obviously. And of course, that's not something that you would call it aim to do that. However, this is reality, that you will get hurt when you do that. We are now, when we talk about exercise, we are moving our body, and as you exert your body, there is effects that come from it, the consequences that come from it, and that might be pain. But again, that shouldn't be taken necessarily as a negative or something bad happening to you. It's just a consequence of using your body in a particular way. So if you only look, like you said, Gregory, in a superficial way, you will think of anything painful as something that's negative or something bad. But no, you're using that, if you have to walk from A to B, if you look in something simple terms, after some time you get tired. Is that pain from tiredness? Is that something bad? No, it's just, that's what happens when you walk so long. It's not necessarily bad. So the context is so important to appreciate these points and, really to get the reality of what is going on. And you wouldn't call walking painful, yes, if you only walk 10 minutes, there's no pain, you can say. If you walk for 2 hours, there could be some pain out of it. But it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just, it's only if you, let's say, truly get injured, let's say very damaging, heavy injury, then you can say, oh, that was you went a bit beyond what is, let's say, which is good for you. I'm not quite sure how to say it. An injury, a real injury, a damaging injury. A little one, you can, handle it. So yes, I guess, Gregory, you always think of the word balance in anything we do. We must have this notion of balance. So, Gregory, is there a way, now I'm thinking about this, looking at the context of the word pain, is there a way, Gregory, that we should, in quotes, measure that what we are capable of doing, without harming ourselves or without causing, let's say, serious injury? Let me say it like that, because slight pain is not something to worry about. But if you go something that causes real damage, and I can't exactly define that. Of course, if you break a leg, that's a serious injury. So Gregory, what I'm asking is there a way to assess when you take up an activity that there's like a limit beyond which you should not exceed to keep yourself, let's say, healthy?
So is the question now directed to one's physical health, or is it general?
Physical at the moment, yes.
Yeah.
But this month, right now.
Generally, I think one should look at this thing in a holistic manner, rather than, the superficial, no pain, no gain. If you consider someone who has been reflecting on how to get some opportunities, and in his or her reflections could not come to a conclusion, and this turns out to be very painful to the individual, because they now sense it has been a waste of efforts in one's reflection in thoughts. And subsequently, without really thinking about it, some opportunities present themselves. Now, these opportunities that have presented themselves are a cause of joy to the individual. In the first scenario, where the opportunities could not be identified, could not be found, that caused pain, and there was no gain. In the second scenario, where opportunities presented themselves, that caused a lot of joy, and there was no pain. Now, one must ask themselves, what really do they mean by this no pain, no gain? As we all know, motion is a law in creation. And for one to be able to receive, first intuitively, the individual must place itself in the activity to be able to give. And in giving, the individual prepares itself unconsciously to be able to receive. Therein lies the balance which you yourself mentioned. Therefore, when you have the scenario, the dynamic scenario, where individuals are prepared to give of things in deeds, in thoughts, and in their intuitions. And these three resonate. You then find that there is a dynamic balance, because in giving, that which the individual has received is made use of and passed on to others. That in itself brings joy to the individual, not discomfort. And in that giving, in creation, in nature, there will be balance. As in giving, one will then find that the individual opens himself or herself to be able to receive in ways he or she never imagined. So when such a balance is then recognized by the individual, you find all given is done with joy, because it already senses it is going to reap joy or happiness in the process. Whether that process is physical activity or thoughtful activity or intuitive activities. That is the way nature presents it. That is the way creation presents it. So you have that scenario where a balance is achieved. If, however, that is not the case, a deviation then comes in which that which is supposed to make the individual comfortable, that now brings discomfort. And it is that discomfort which is the pain. After all, many a person may sit at home and hears beautiful music from a different place. He or she didn't need to exert himself or herself going out. He just had the music. That's gain for him or gain for her. Where then comes the discomfort? So the context which have been used by these people who crafted these words, who put them together, first must be understood. But most importantly, it is the spiritual picture that is of great concern. That picture in which that which is of spirit, which impresses its activity impresses via one's intuition. It impresses on the back brain, which, if the brain is sensitive enough, it should pass it on to the frontal brain undistorted, such that there is an implementation indeed. In that scenario, the intellect, which is the frontal brain as such, swings or resonates with one's intuition. All the deeds subsequently, which are thereby accomplished, brings joy and happiness to the individual, because it senses it cannot be otherwise. Pain only comes in when that which is of spirit, of one's intuition, does not resonate with that which is of the intellect, or the intellect absorbs things partially, distorts it, and therefore its implementation is grossly distorted. Deep within the individual, its inner attitude, it feels pain. It is pain that has arisen from deep within the individual. That is the pain which has an impact here on earth or hereafter. That is the pain which many a person must strive to overcome, because it has arisen due to the different ways, or due to the disharmony between the impressions of the spirit and the thoughtful implementation of these impressions. And the individual, when they reflect calmly, they will always find that that which has caused discomfort has its roots within this particular scenario which one has just described.
Thanks a lot, Gregory, for this deep explanation, which, as you say, is holistic, where you don't just look at the outer physical happenings of which we are used to very much on this earth with those pains. There's also the inner happening, and you can call it, like I gave the example of having heartbreak. That doesn't affect physically, but it affects you could say, your soul, your spirit. So the activity has, any activity to be understood properly, you need to look at the full picture, you can say. The inner and the outer happenings must be considered. Spiritually, with our intuition, our thoughts, and our physical deeds, or whatever happens in a physical form. So all three must be considered to really get the full picture, you can say, of what is going on here. And that means you have a pain physically, you can have the pain maybe in thoughts, and also in your spirit. So that, and each has a different way of affecting us. So that shows a much bigger picture than this phrase, no gain without pain, which, let's say, aimed more at the physical aspect of life, not really the deeper aspects, the inner working. So, dear listeners, I want to let you know that this is Bless Radio, and this is the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Abdrushin. If you wish to know more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that. www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. And the topic that we're discussing tonight is no gain without pain. No gain without pain. If you have any questions or comments, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting, that is Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1.com. If you scroll down on the home page, you'll see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. And we are also broadcasting on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1, space, Grail Message, space, the topic of the show, which tonight is no gain without pain. And you can listen to a recording of this show with the same, also on YouTube, with the same search words, which is, again, Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1, space, Grail Message, space, the topic of the show, which tonight is no gain without pain. And of course, you can listen to recordings of our previous shows also on YouTube. Thirdly, we are broadcasting on Zeno, that's ZENO.FM/Bless Radio 1. Again, that's the number 1 there. Okay, I've got a message from somebody, a missed call. Let me just check it. Okay, so I want to say that as Gregory has been pointing out, no gain without pain. It's so easy to say these words, I must say. No gain without pain. When you look at these words, it sort of logically makes sense. As Gregory has pointed out, there is a law of motion, and obviously in the physical world, in the physical world, we experience that, of course, right? And that's how you can have, let's say, if you overexert yourself, you will feel that pain, physically pain. But we've told, as we've been saying, that's really not the full picture to fully understand, because that has a negative connotation that you're getting tired, or you have overexerted yourself. Yes. Of course, if it was something, let's say, I'm going to use the word in quotes, permanently damaging, that would be very, you could say, harmful and dangerous. And we should obviously avoid that. At the same time, there's other type of pain we can have, like I mentioned earlier, when you have, let's say, relationship or disappointment, and you might get heartbreak from that. This is not a physical pain, but it is, let's say, it has a tremendous impact. In fact, more than even the physical pain can have, because the physical pain can go. After some time, it will go. You get healed physically, but this, you could call it heartache. It's more emotional, and even if it's gone for a little while, it can be revived. Somehow it has a deeper impact than the physical pain. So people might be wondering, why? Gregory pointed out, we are not working only in the outer level, which is the physical world. There is also the inner world, which, let's say, most of us are not really aware of, not consciously, let's say. We sense something, but we don't take, because it's not physical, not visible, physically visible, we sort of not take it too seriously, or consider the reality, that there is a reality which is not physical. And yet, let's say, pretty much everybody has experienced that pain, the non-physical one, but we don't try to understand it, or try, So there is, we have said, we are spiritual beings. We have the intuition. We spiritual beings are living on this earth, wearing this physical body. And yes, the physical body experiences pain, and then the spiritual being also can experience pain. So we need, we need to become conscious of that. Okay. And there's ways, we can soothe the pain. You can say people listen to music, go out in nature, even there's paintings and things that you can say they touch our spirit. So there are ways where one can, you could say, be soothed there. But ultimately, we need to be healed in all these, in this sort of pains. We can't have a temporary sort of cure, because that otherwise these pains will keep coming back. So the real thing is to be healed, complete, you can say, within yourself, that these pains do not keep coming back. I'm talking about the spiritual one now. The physical one, yes, you can be healed with an injury, and of course that pain is gone. But things with heartache and so on, it means something is, if that pain is coming back, that there's something incomplete that hasn't been resolved. And it could be, as Gregory has said many times, it's the context, how you see the situation. So outwardly, we're calling something pain, but when you see it in the real context, that's you're doing an activity, this is now physically at the moment, that when you properly, exercise, yes, there will be some pain. And if you overexert, you can lead to an injury, and that will be more painful, of course, and that will take longer to heal. With the emotional, or you could say spiritual pain, there has to be some resolution there to complete that. So now I've got a question from a listener. Let me just check what he's saying. Here we go. Okay, so I'll read this question from a listener. What gain is there in grief, in longing for a soul that is no longer on earth? This brings deep inner sorrow. In such circumstances, one feels empty. One can open to prayer for spiritual guidance, for the strength to overcome and move forward. But the longing, the memories will always remain. So, okay, this doesn't look like a question. It's more of a, how can I say, statement. Gregory, I'm going to ask you to make a comment on it. So I'll just read it out again. What gain is there in grief, in longing for a soul that is no longer on earth? This brings deep inner sorrow. In such circumstances, one feels empty. One can open to prayer for spiritual guidance, for the strength to overcome and move forward. But the longing and the memories will always remain. Gregory, anything you would like to say on to this statement?
Well, thanks. This is a scenario which is very prevalent here on earth. And in every scenario, there have been expectations from all sides. Most of the time, it is the missed opportunities. What individuals could have done together, now that that is no more possible in here on earth, that means they are unable to work in deeds together physically. There seemed to be an emptiness of the expectation, which expectation was always there whilst the other partner was available in flesh and blood. And therefore, you find that it's as if, well, what else should one do? Many turn to prayer. But when prayer is mentioned, what really do they expect? Are their expectations in accordance with the laws of nature or the laws of creation, through which first they themselves came into existence and came to the earth to experience? Secondly, in accordance with the laws of creation, through which the departed one came into existence, came to the earth to experience, and has now gone for further experience. These are the questions the individual must ask themselves. And in order to be able to find meaningful answers, self-consistent answers, and answers which are consistent with these same laws of motion, laws of nature, the work in the light of truth, the Grail Message, has now made it very clear what these scenarios entail, what is possible here and subsequently hereafter. Grief, most of the time, is not that which is the physical. That grief is many a time in one's thoughts, and on most occasion in one's intuitive perception, rapping at the individual, as if accusingly, saying it has not done enough to have interacted with the individual. Therefore, you have, with such, there is a sense of guilt of those who have been left behind, who had the opportunity to have done more than they did. If subsequently they use such grief to swing up themselves by striving to find out the basis of the structure of life here on earth and hereafter, that automatically opens the channel in their striving, through which, one way or the other, they are able to receive information, impressions of him or her who has departed. Sometimes this may be in dreams. Sometimes this may be they hear of the nearness of that person in their thoughts, in their intuitions. Sometimes they even hear the voices. These things are not imaginary, but they are real. For the individual that is departing, or for the individual that has departed, the strong impressions of the spirit, which strong impressions rap at those who are left behind in their intuitions and in their thoughts, that is sufficient to communicate some information to those left behind if they themselves are open. But they have to be open aright. First, in humility. In humility, first to know that they themselves are nothing therein in creation, but are just permitted to experience, to be able to share. Like we have always stressed in this discussion, whilst here, or even hereafter, it is one for all and all for one. Why? Because the goal is the same. The goal of the individual spiritually is to become self-conscious. To become self-conscious, to be able to return to one's origin as a self-conscious human personality and participate in their activities joyfully back home in paradise, participate in the activities happily in sharing with others, in helpfulness with others, for others, And in return, helpfulness, joyfulness, and happiness are returned to it in manifold way. That has always been the goal. And you then find that which had been sorrowful, once used as a basis and used right in one's striving, that will now construct a path in openness, a path in the support of others, just as others who are here or have left, one way or the other, support them.
Thanks a lot, Gregory, for this answer to the listener's question. What you're pointing to is that yet again, there is the outer happening that we are familiar with when there is a death, let's say, of a loved one or anyone actually. And then people think of this as a loss. The person has gone, but where have they gone? They're not there physically anymore, but there's a world beyond the physical, and most people think life is only in the physical. So of course, that's why, but when you know that there is not just the physical, there is this beyond, where people pass on, there's that world where the people continue to exist there, and yet we just feel the loss here on this earth, grieving the person has gone. Yes, they've gone from this earth, but they haven't gone and ended and the life is over for them. No, it's not. It continues. And as you pointed to, Gregory, well, there's a way we landed down this earth. We were born there. We existed before we were born on this earth. So we came from somewhere. Where did we come from? Well, guess what? It's also the beyond. So we existed before the earth, we landed on this earth. So once you have this awareness and understanding, things become, well, first of all, you wouldn't have that grief because you know what's going on. So this ignorance and lack of understanding is quite, you could say, in a way, it's more painful because it results in pain when you are ignorant. But when you are aware, then the pain disappears. So, and obtaining this knowledge of this world, of the beyond, and how life works, that is not a painful process if you're open for it. So, dear listeners, I want to remind you are listening to Bless Radio. This is the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Abrushin. If you wish to know more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that. www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. And the topic that we're discussing tonight is no gain without pain. No gain without pain. If you have any questions or comments, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. There's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is Bless Radio 1. That's the number 1.com. If you scroll down on the home page, you'll see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. And we are also broadcasting on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1 again, space Grail Message, space the topic of the show, which tonight is No Gain Without Pain. And you can also listen to the recording of this show after the show ends with the same words in the search box on YouTube. So go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1, space Grail Message, space No Gain Without Pain. And of course, you can listen to the recording of our previous shows also on YouTube. Thirdly, we are broadcasting on Zeno, that's ZENO.FM/Bless Radio 1. That's the number 1. Now, Gregory, this topic we chose, no gain without pain. It is used for motivating people to achieve their goals. I was listening on another radio show where people are looking at, the current young generation and the older generation, let's say, how they, how can I say, the attitude that the younger generation has in comparison with the older generation, if I can use that word, in regard to, let's say, working or because it appears that the younger generation, or there's a significant proportion of this younger generation, is not finding work or not willing to work even, compared to what we are used to of the older generation when they were younger. Some sort of attitude issue is going on, it seems. And in this radio discussion, there were people coming forward with, how they, some of these, let's say, older generation now talking about when they were children, how they used to be brought up by their parents, or you can say guardian. And they said they were in one mostly you are finding that people said the parents instilled in us, the children, to have a good hard work ethic, hard working ethic, which set them up for the future because they now got used to that. And maybe that is missing in this, let's say, some of the younger. We can't really say everybody, because if you start to label everybody, there's always an exception, and then we cannot explain it. So now, so this phrase, that seems to suggest that maybe you can put it another way: no gain without pain. Maybe the real word should be no gain without effort. It shouldn't be, we don't have to take these phrases, as you said, Gregory, sometimes they're limited in their scope of what they mean. But if we can maybe make them better phrases, it should be no gain without effort. So if you put effort, then surely there should be some result. So, but my question is, Gregory, maybe the parents need to bring up the children with that hard work ethic. That's the phrase that somebody used to give which said that set them up for their whole future in their life. So, Gregory, is there something that, let's say, we have to be brought up, by our parents or guardians to be set up in the right way. Let me say like this.
The question which has arisen is a fundamental one. The parents or the guardians are not the only ones that are responsible in the upbringing of any individual. The individual lives in a society, and therefore you will find, like in some communities, there's the expression, you never walk alone. So you don't have the child walking with the parents or the guardian alone. There are others in the community. Therefore, the social order, which is also a contributory factor, the government input, which is also a contributory factor, all this should show by examples what they mean by hard work. Ask any child who has watched football if they wish to play football. Many will tell you, yes, of course they wish to play football. Then in that case, show them in sequence, gradually, the efforts that they have to make. Of course, many will engage in it. First, it will be joy to be able to engage in it, because that ball had to be kicked with others in the field. So you don't have the child kicking the ball by himself alone when others are not in the field. They have to work with others. So the key thing here is the examples. The examples which the parents set, the examples in which the government sets, the examples of the social order. These are critical in helping to mold the character of the individual. If the individual is strong enough within itself, which is very rare, because as a child, many hold the imitative instinct. And what do they imitate? They only imitate what they see out there, that which is close to them, either from their parents, or from government, or from the social order, or from friends, until they are strong enough to make their own decisions. But sometimes by that time it is too late. So the blame should not be put on parents alone, but must be looked at in a holistic manner, and efforts put in place, guidelines put in place, so that the individual who is growing up will learn from these things. Sadly enough, the examples which are shown, some examples shown by some parents or some societal norms, are not upbuilding. They show the reverse. And for many, they would not wish to work that hard. To work hard only means to be consistent in striving to stand aright, in such a way that it will be of benefit to them and also to others. So a solution must be arrived at in a holistic manner rather than pointing at the parents alone.
Thank you, Gregory, for this answer. And like you keep pointing out, we need to look at the holistic picture. Parents are one part of life, in our life. There's others around as well. And let's say everybody's input is needed in the development of the children, because they set the example for the children to follow. And then, basically, you normally, it's only what you know or what you come across that you, let's say, in quotes, copy or learn from. Unless you yourself, how can I say, start looking beyond that. Maybe by traveling or some other way, you get to see other things, and your attitude changes accordingly. So yes, we just have to take all these things into account in our development, you can say. Now, Gregory, I'm sure, unless you are not tuned into the world news, you'll be aware that I'm not talking about you, Gregory, personally, but everybody, that there's this, how can I say, tariffs being set by the USA to countries that they trade with, where they say they have a very high deficit with them, USA. The USA has a high trade deficit with them, with these other countries, where now this tariff seems to be having very heavy impact on the economies and the in business, you can say, and of course business affects our lives as well after that, since we all work, most of us are working, so that affects us as well. Now, there's like a battle of wills going on. One side, or let's call it side, sees a particular way how things should be done in this trading, and others see it in a different way. So let me give a little, how can I say, one side's way of thinking, and then see, what's happening, what's the impact of it, and what can we make sense of it. So the idea is that, so USA, as I said, they put high tariff on importing goods from other countries, high tariff, to reduce those products coming into the USA. And the claim is that those companies that are bringing those products, they should now have factories or expand their factories in the USA so they can make those products there. And that way they don't need to pay the import duty. As I said, this is really having a world impact. It's not about USA. It's having a world impact. That's why I'm talking about it. And it's a painful impact. That's why I'm talking about it. It's like and it's having, and very quickly that is happening. So there's a concept, they say, I know we don't want to talk about politics too much and this type of things, but because it is about pain, and even a global pain, I think it's a good that we talk about it. So basically, there's a concept, let's say, of free trade, but it has resulted, let's say, in imbalance. And President Trump doesn't agree with that imbalance, and he has come up with his own idea of imposing these tariffs. And he gave his own analogy of a patient having an operation, where one has to experience pain before they get better. So my question, Gregory, on this is this the way to change fundamentally, let's say, because maybe something is not, there's an imbalance, let's say like that. There's an imbalance and there needs to be a balance. And this seems to be a painful way. I mean, we are even assuming that this is going to work, but let's assume that it has some impact in it, that it'll have some, let's say, rebalancing impact. So let's say if this painful approach, is this a way, like a painful approach which is happening quickly, I will say, having an impact, is this a good way to make a change for the better, you can say, or is it better to have a gradual transition from, let's say, an existing order to a new order, to a new way? So I'm sorry I've gone in a very roundabout way to say it, so I will now repeat it in a shorter way. So what I'm asking, Gregory, is in order to achieve a balance from an imbalance, is it like good to change in a, how can I say, drastic way, which causes a lot of pain, or is it better to find a way which is more gradual, so changing from the old way to the new way?
Well, since it has been brought up, every discussion must be examined in accordance with the laws of nature, of that one for all and all for one. And one must examine from, the activities of the participants, whatever country they come from. If the activities of the participants are such that they themselves have violated this one for all and all for one, then it is they who first have violated these rules that should make the change. That change must come from themselves. Therefore, you'll find that when politics comes in which many people, or those who consider themselves to be strong, not strong in morals, not strong in logic, not strong in consistency, but strong in trying to enforce rules in place, which rules they themselves first had forcefully established. And then subsequently, they themselves find that these rules, which they have forcefully established, turns out to be counterproductive. And now they wish to forcefully establish a different set of rules. Many a person, when they make decisions, many do not, or many hide their motive, or they give a false motive of why they do what they are doing. So you find that deep within, what are the motives? It is the motives that should settle the matter. If the motives are that of one for all and all for one, then that must apply to all the individuals that call the earth their home. If that is not the case, then such violations which they forcefully wish to bring in, some by invading other people's country, some by automatically readdressing the rules which they themselves had forcefully put in place. That already gives the conclusion of where things are going. One should not forget that in 1929 there was the collapse. There was a financial crash. It wasn't that there was a crash in agriculture and that the crops refused to grow for years and years. That was never the case. It was a financial crisis which was precipitated due to the intellectual activities of human spirit. It wasn't precipitated by so-called aliens. It wasn't precipitated by those who have very little to it. It was precipitated by those who were in charge of so-called finances, paper. The faults were not in the agricultural sector, yet people went hungry. So most of these things were mismanagement. Those who wish to have change must first change themselves.
Thank you, Gregory. What I'm hearing from you, I'm just looking at let's say, the countries and the people, and I see that even they admitted directly that they're only, well, they don't say only, they want to make their own country great, and without saying at the expense of somebody else, but in a way that's what they mean. So when you say what is their motivation, I don't think their motivation is all for one and one for all. It's only me, the motivation is, and everybody else I don't care. But they won't say those words, of course. They just care for themselves. And it's like, so this all for one and one for all, it seems to be outside their thinking or their, so it's a shame that, because they say, oh, we represent our country, so it's only our country we care about. Yeah, but you're not the only country in this world, and you can't interact by yourself. So this one, they forget that one. And as if they have, and then they think they can work with their so-called friends and forget and fight against their enemies, whatever fight they think they can do. And the enemies also think the same way. So it's like nobody really wants, the motivation is not, let's say, of genuine goodness for mankind or humanity, but for purely, they call it self-interest. I mean, just look at this word, self-interest. It's you think, wait a minute, sounds good in the beginning, but is that the only interest? Self-interest at the expense of somebody else? Have they thought about that?
Actually, the word self-interest, when considered, why do we then have insurance? Why do we have neighbors? If there is fire in one's neighbor's house, do you stand by and allow the fire to go on? Or do you help your neighbor? For in the case of not helping your neighbor, there could be leap of sparks, which will now engulf your own property. And, well, if you said it was self-interest, now that which is being suffered by your neighbor has now visited you out of, in quotes, self-interest. People are not in this world alone by themselves. They were born in. They interact with others. When the wind blows, it doesn't say, okay, I will stop in this country, I will not blow to the other. When the birds of migration, when they fly, they move from one country to the other. But what happens to human beings? That's a different story. Therefore, this so-called self-interest, when the climate now returns to each nation, to each individual, that which they help in precipitating, then the question should be, where is the self-interest?
Thanks for that, Gregory. Yes, hopefully these words and points should make us wake up, to see the real reality, not what our imaginary understanding and reality is. These are simple facts. What is the true reality? And then we live according to our own, let's say, self-interest reality, which we don't even know what is truly self-interest. So thank you for that. Dear listeners, you're listening to Bless Radio. This is the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Abrushin. If you wish to know more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. And the topic that we're discussing tonight is no gain without pain. No gain without pain. If you have any questions or comments, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting, that is blessradio1, that's the number 1.com. If you scroll down on the homepage, you'll see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. And we are also broadcasting on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1 there, space, Grail Message, space, the topic of the show, which tonight is no gain without pain. And you can listen to a recording of this show after the show, again, the same way on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1 again, space, Grail Message, space, the topic of the show, no gain without pain. And of course, you can listen to the recordings of our previous shows also on YouTube. Thirdly, we are broadcasting on Zeno. That's ZENO.FM/Bless Radio 1, the number 1 again. Now, I have you could say, somebody who's helping me also with questions for the radio show. They've been contributing the last 2 shows, or they do contribute on and off sometimes, but they've been contributing recently for the last few shows. So they have put this, forwarded this to me. Last week we had a poem. So the person is Mrs. Harriet Jarvis Hoppe. So she has written something in connection with our topic tonight, no gain without pain. Now, sometimes I think it's a question, sometimes I think it's a statement. So I'll read it out and we'll see what it is when we read it. So, in the present day condition of the mind and soul of humanity, which literally centuries ago coined this shackle for itself, this idiom, which proves itself to be a truism, if for no other reason than we exercise it so regularly to our own detriment. A detriment that flies directly in the face of Christ's word of encouragement and admonition, namely, unless ye be simple as little children, ye shall in no wise enter into the kingdom of God, heaven. I will continue. This because children in their natural state do not weigh balance of easy or difficult, gain against pain. They simply do or do not as they envisage each step as an adventure to explore, to taste. Let me just repeat that because I think I wasn't so clear there. They simply do or do not as they envisage. Okay? So they ye shall in no wise, sorry, I've lost the place. Let me just make sure. I'm going to start that paragraph from the beginning. So this because children in their natural state do not weigh the balance of easy or difficult, gain against pain. They are simple and do or do not do as they envisage. They envisage each step as an adventure, to explore, to taste. Just as did the spirit of mankind as it journeyed out of the gardens of paradise with the same thirst, simply to know more. Yes, nowadays, I think it's yet, but I'll say that's what is written. Yes, I'm going to read it as yet. Yet nowadays, there really is no gain without pain in literally every thought, action, endeavor, or burgeoning hope. Why? Because simply put, having overburdened ourselves with a brain that invented pain, which it cannot be without. No other option is allowed to uproot or transplant this so deadly a concept to peace, happiness, and simplicity. I'm going to stop there. There's a bit more there. Greg, I just wanted to get any comments or insights you would like to add to these words. It's sort of like how can I say, giving a state of how humanity is. So maybe you can help us with that understanding of what this is saying, Gregory.
Strictly speaking, it is difficult to add or subtract from it because it speaks for itself.
Okay, that's fine. And I know the language is a bit poetic as well. So sometimes you have to absorb that to, everybody has their own way of expressing things. So for me, I have to read it a few times to absorb it, But yes, there's a picture being painted, I would say. My own comment will be that if you are acting as a child, acts in a simple way, then there wouldn't be any pain. Everything's an adventure. You just do what you do, taste, explore. You could say in a natural way. But somehow we human beings seems to have made things complicated. I think the big point is that you have to weigh if something is painful or you look something as a pain, but a child doesn't think of a pain. It just goes ahead, So we have become sort of turned away from, well, of course, we are not children now when you become an adult. However, there is something from the child that is, how can I say, very good or useful to follow. And then, as I said, these words of pain would not be called pain. It would be a joy or adventure. So I'm going to continue with the next part of this. Let's go. I'm not quite sure what to call it because it's not exactly a poem, this one, but let's say pictures. So, yes, through both thought and deed, these treasures are worth to fight for. But it is how, as so-called adults, this is achieved. Are we not given? Are we after all given? No, sorry. Let me say that again. Are we not after all given a garden containing that all our bodies require to thrive? Are we not daily, with the rise of and the setting of the sun and the moon, gently reminded that his light shines, holding all in natural balance of life? Do not the makings of the Almighty's hand bear daily witness to his abundant forethought in preparation of his creation's needs, if they are to grow and thrive as a joy to behold in his garden? Do not the seasons and elements stand as a living testament to the fact that all is movement, even unto the blood and the bodily cloak provided at our request, to become knowing, that we become knowing in honor of him who gives all life in his gardens, without so much as a tortured mind, racked body, blood and gold littered vista. This, however, we did not treasure, did not keep the balance in. Instead, we set ourselves above this so gracious act of the Father, until his words, to be simple as little children, no longer hold any value. And yet it is not the very help from above to remember these precious words of the Lord that whisper to us in the night, that trumpets to the body and the soul of humanity when our eyes rest upon a tiny flower burgeoning through the good earthly, so newly released from the icy grip of winter. Do not then the spirit within soar without fear or fetter or thought of no gain without pain, to simply be free. That's like a poem, I must say, even if it doesn't rhyme. So, but yes. Again, Gregory, any points, anything you'd like to say?
As with every poem, there's the need for us to assimilate it and let it work within the individual before there is a reciprocal action on it. So what one had to do was to listen very carefully. Maybe subsequently one may respond to. But it's quite inspiring.
Yes, I must admit, just reading you straight, like beginning to end, there's a lot that is being said, and you cannot just in 1 second say I've got exactly the meaning of the word, because there's so much being said within these words, and it's almost like you have to tune in to get these points that are being made, you know. But I don't want to repeat them now, and I don't know how I can, because these words are not my words. I don't want to just copy them online and so on. So I don't want to do that. But maybe you can replay the radio show and hear the words again, listeners. So that way you can appreciate the value of these words. And in a way, there's also a message there which is to be discovered, rather than we try to explain it all for you, you know, because there has to be an effort. We said that it's not but this effort is not painful, as we have been, let's say, wrongly interpreting. You know, it's life. Life is, yes, you can say it requires hard work, but you don't call it hard work or painful. It's just that is how life is. And if you see it in that context, in the right way, you can say, then these things, how well say, our wrong thinking about these words or interpreting them, you know, because it can lead you to, let's say, misunderstanding and also wrong ideas, you know. As I said, this word pain, it shouldn't exist for a child. They don't think of the word pain. Even if, you know, when they fall, they just get up. Maybe they cry a little bit, and then they get up and walk again. But being adult human beings, we seem to want to make a drama and make a big deal out of these things. Right, so let me see what else we can think about. So, Gregory, I'm just thinking of the way how we should be, the attitude that we should be adopting. You know, this thinking of no gain without pain, that's not what is really how it should be. Let's say, in a spiritual way of thinking, that's not how we look at life, let's say. Okay, it is more, you can say that you need to put effort to develop, to grow, you know, to achieve something. But this effort, you don't call it, even if there's pain involved, it's not negative. It's only what is required. So, you know, these are the wrong attitudes, you can say, we have adopted. And then, you know, which, as I say, they can lead us to have wrong, I don't want to use the word depression, but some sort of negative ways of seeing things. And it's never meant that way, you know. I'm thinking, Gregory, how it should be is, we say everything has to be looked in accordance with the laws of nature to understand these things. So I wanted to say, Gregory, how it seems so simple. We should be natural, isn't it? That's what we are supposed to be, natural. And it seems do we have to learn to become natural, Gregory, or is it not inherently within us to become natural? So, what's happened that we cannot seem to be natural, like, if I can use the word, automatically? Where have the thing gone wrong? You can say, where has it gone wrong that we don't seem to become naturally natural? And somehow they, let's say, got into a wrong confusion.
Very simply, within the individual, misconstruing its intuitive perceptions, and many a time only using one's intellect to make decisions. That is unnatural, and that is what many are fighting against, although they themselves don't realize it. Their vision is very narrow. We are there to understand it is one for all and all for one. Then they would pave the way for other impressions to strike them, which impressions they will now make use of for the betterment of their lives. You're on mute.
Oh, thank you for that, Gregory. I thought I was speaking. So thank you for that, Gregory. How can I say? I think another thing, what is a natural way of seeing things, it should be known that these are simple ways that we are following, or we are meant to be following, and what's happened is, with, let's say, you could say, with the involvement of the intellect, or let's say wrong direction of thinking, things have become complicated, which was actually simple. So that has, and one thing you could say, this is like a vicious circle. Once you step on this, let's say, wrong direction or wrong road, it might take a while to realize, until you hit something. That's what you can say, another painful thing. You hit something like maybe an accident or injury, that you realize, wait a minute, maybe I'm not on the right road here. But if we use the intuition, which is, you could say, our inner working from the spirit, we are guided to follow, you could say, the way to success, because that one, it senses already at a higher level, while the intellect only looks at the outer level, not the whole picture. The spirit can see at a higher level, let's say, the world around us, and the intellect only sees the world immediately, the physical world only, and so it cannot get that whole picture, and we become reliant on this immediate physical picture to make decisions and act, and that way, of course, we go astray. I'm going to ask Gregory, is there a way to strengthen the intuition, or to distinguish, let me say, to have clarity, that's the real word, really, to know when it is your intuition talking and when maybe your intellect is talking? Is there a way to have that clarity?
The question is that who is the one who's to do the observation, the spirit or the intellect?
Okay, so sorry, you're asking me now, did you say?
Yeah, I've said You see, is there a way?
Yes.
And my counter question is that who is doing the observation? Is it the spirit or the intellect? Because the question is such that there is a third entity involved, whereas there are only two. That which the intuition impresses, the intellect is to find a way of accomplishing it. Many of us, we out of our so-called comfort zone move around, and we perceive terrible suffering. What is our response? Many hear of injustice far away or nearby. What is our response? These are there to trigger the individual to respond. It is the response that the individual poses, or the response of the individual to challenges. It is that response that counts. If that response is in accordance with one for all and all for one, you find that an individual won't go stealing from another, an individual won't go lying about another. In such a way, the individual prepares for himself the path that he or she will take subsequently here on earth or hereafter. But for many, they think, oh, a picture occurs, okay, they're going to use this picture for the betterment of their life while ignoring the others. They want to, in quotes, be successful while cheating and changing the rules. Then you ask yourself, where does this lead to? So it is the individual that has to change. That which it wishes will be for the betterment and benefit for others. That he himself or herself, that attitude he shall adopt. Once it follows that attitude, then all the clogs that have been put on the way through which one's intuition should impress, that will be cleared away, such that deep within, inner clarity will come. And then confidence will grow. With confidence, through the reactions, the reciprocal action it had to former challenges, it will then be courageous because it knows that that one for all and all for one opens the way. Then it can move courageously. That is the right way to move.
Thanks very much, Gregory. Dear listeners, we've come to the end of the show tonight on the topic of no gain without pain. Hope you've enjoyed the discussion. I'm going to just read very briefly. Actually, this is from the cover of the Grail Message. You could call it, the cover. Let me just say it, the cover of the Grail Message, which says, free yourself from all darkness. He who makes no effort to grasp the word of the Lord aright burdens himself with guilt. So, dear listeners, if you wish to know more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. Gregory, is there anything you'd like to say to the listeners to say goodbye?
Wishing the individual a wonderful week ahead.
Thank you. Same from me, listeners. Have a beautiful week ahead. We'll be back as usual next Tuesday, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time, with another topic.